I'm going to be reading Sestina by Elizabeth Bishop. A sestina is a particular kind of poem. It's a poem of 6 stanzas, each of 6 lines, and a 7th stanza, which of 3 lines. And what's special about the sestina is that the words that end each of the 6 lines of the first stanza are repeated in each of the other stanzas in a slightly different arrangement. So you hear those same final line end words over and over again, used in subtly different ways in each stanza. And it's a very constrained structure. It's a very patterned poem that's difficult to write. It's an achievement when you've created one. And this is a very beautiful one by Elizabeth Bishop. Sestina. September rain falls on the house. In the failing light, the old grandmother sits in the kitchen with the child beside the little marble stove, reading the jokes from the almanac, laughing and talking to hide her tears. She thinks that her equinoctial tears and the rain that beats on the roof of the house were both foretold by the almanac, but only known to a grandmother. The iron kettle sings on the stove. She cuts some bread and says to the child, "It's time for tea now." But the child is watching the tea kettle's small hard tears dance like mad on the hot black stove, the way the rain must dance on the house. Tidying up, the old grandmother hangs up the clever almanac on its string. Bird-like, the almanac hovers half open above the child, hovers above the old grandmother and her teacup full of dark brown tears. She shivers and says she thinks the house feels chilly and puts more wood on the stove. "It was to be," says the marble stove. "I know what I mean," says the almanac. With crayons, the child draws a rigid house and a winding pathway. Then the child puts in a man with buttons like tears and shows it proudly to the grandmother. But secretly, while the grandmother busies herself about the stove, the little moons fall down like tears from beneath the pages of the almanac into the flower bed the child has carefully placed in the front of the house. "Time to plant tears," says the almanac. The grandmother sings to the marvelous stove, and the child draws another inscrutable house.